So what should you do in your 20s to set yourself up for financial success? I brought it down to 5 things that I think are pretty much crucial for you to build the foundation that will be made for the longevity of your financial future. See, the reason I thought about doing this video is because I have a little brother that just turned 19. And because of that, I feel like I have almost a responsibility to share some of the knowledge that I have been through with my past experiences and what I think might be the best foundation to have financially for every single person. So if you're watching this, Nick, which I'm pretty sure you won't be, here are the 5 things I think you need to start doing to build that financial foundation. Now, the first one I think is probably the most important, and I actually haven't seen it on any YouTube video related that's similar to this video, and that is, where do you see yourself in 10 years time? Now, just wait before you click off this video, because you just don't want to answer that and it is too difficult to answer that. And, maybe you're someone that doesn't know what they want in life yet and are just sort of figuring it out. It's totally okay. This is exactly what this question is designed for. See, before we can talk about what you need to do to set up your financial future, we need to see where that end goal is. Because there's no point in starting something if we don't know where we want to end up. So whether you know exactly where you want to be already in 10 years time or not, this exercise will actually tell you more about yourself than you probably know. If you don't know exactly where you want to be in 10 years time, and maybe you don't even know what career you want to have, and maybe you don't even know how much money you want to make in the future, this covers everything. So pretty much the gist of the exercise, you need to be extremely specific. So there's no use if you just say, oh, I want to have a car and I want to have a house and I want to be married. No, that's not good enough. I want you to stop and think about a full day in your life 10 years from now. What your dream sort of reality looks like 10 years from now. So, for example, it is a Monday, 10 years from now, and you wake up. At what time do you want to wake up? Is it 8 a.m.? Is it 10? Is it 3 in the afternoon? What time do you want to wake up? Say you wake up at 8. Great. Whatever it may be, whatever you want it to be. And where are you waking up from? Is it the same bed that you sleep in now? Is it a different bed? Is it the same house? Is it your own house? What does this house look like? How many bedrooms does the house have? What type of car do you have in the garage? Is it your car? Are you sleeping alone? Do you have a spouse or a partner next to you? Do you have any pets? Do you have any children? Whatever the case may be, you need to be thinking very, very specific. What type of breakfast do you have in the morning, if any breakfast at all? Do you go out for breakfast? Do you make it yourself? Do you have a personal chef that makes it for you? Everything needs to be extremely specific. And I think that way, when you realize what your dream lifestyle is, you can then write it down and you'll be able to figure out how much money you need to make. You'll be able to figure out what type of career can fit within the constraints of that lifestyle that you've envisioned for yourself. And we can start working towards that lifestyle. So I think that is something very important that not many people actually talk about. But if you don't have that end goal in mind, then what's the point in getting started if you're just going to walk cluelessly? By doing this, we will be able to then draw a pathway backwards. And actually that question is inspired heavily from Connor, because it's actually his personal favorite icebreaker. I've seen him ask it to at least someone at every single party I've been with Connor. And also I found myself asking it as well with new people that I've found in my life. And it's always interesting to see the ones that really get excited and almost jittery explaining specifically what they see themselves doing in 10 years time and how they see themselves living. And then it's almost eye-opening for the people that take a step back and really don't know what to say because they haven't ever thought about progression. Not only new people, but also people in your life that you care about, because it could be a good, eye-opener for them. Now, number 2 is make a physical budget. Now you know where you want to be in 10 years time, we need to see where you are right now in order to be able to essentially manifest that pathway to life with a lot of work, of course. So figure out where you're spending your money. Connor made a great video on how he budgets and where he sort of puts his money and sort of how he does everything. I will link that video below. Pretty sure he also shares his spreadsheet in that video as well, but if you don't want to use that one, or if you want to do a different style, I'm sure you can Google and find plenty of other free options out there. But what you're pretty much going to do is list out all of your expenses as found in your credit card history. This will give you a sense of exactly how much you're spending in each category. And then make a list of necessary and discretionary expenses. See, the biggest part of a budget is making sure you have enough money for necessities, but it can help to leave yourself some wiggle room to treat yourself occasionally, if you can afford it. Necessary expenses include rent, utilities, transportation costs, grocery bills, and other applicable costs like school fees or phone bills. You get the picture. And discretionary expenses are the things you buy but you don't need, like going out to eat, taking an Uber, the new Halo game, buying new clothes, or paying for streaming services. Anyways, this will give you the perfect view into your current financial state, simply by comparing what you earn in a month and what you spend in that same month. When I first started budgeting, I took a record of what I made in a 6-month period and also what I spent in those same 6 months, and simply got the average income monthly and my average spending monthly. And I was able to see where the leaks were coming from in my account that I wasn't very happy with, and was able to correct it in some way. We're all sort of guilty of lifestyle inflation, and if we don't keep track of what we're spending, especially when we're working more shifts, or maybe we make more in one month than we do in another, it's easy to spend that extra cash. But while I do have very big opinions on budgeting, and while I do think it is important to budget, especially for someone that's just getting started, or maybe isn't saving as much as they think they should, I think it is a dangerous game to play, and I don't believe it's beneficial for everyone. Allow me to explain. If you penny pinch every dollar you spend and keep track of everything that comes out of your account, I think ultimately it will drive you insane. And if it doesn't, because you're someone that just likes to keep track of that, I think it is taking your attention away from what really matters. All I'm saying is that it doesn't work for everyone. For example, personally, I don't want to save $1 here just to be able to put that same dollar into investing. If I want to buy a coffee, I will buy a coffee. If I want to go out to eat, I will go out to eat. And I won't be thinking about those $20, $30, $50, $100, whatever it may be, as a loss. And I think when people budget stringently, they focus on saving as much as they can with what they make. Personally, I think you should have the lifestyle you want to have. And if that costs more than someone else's, I think you need to focus on how to make more money. Obviously, easier said than done, and is not going to be for everyone. But personally, since I've started to focus less on budgeting these last 6 months and focusing more on how I could make more money to fulfill the lifestyle that I want to have, whilst also having more savings, I have been making more money than I was. So I personally don't benefit from budgets. Obviously, you should have a clear look of what's coming in and what's coming out, because you can fall victim to lifestyle inflation. But that calculation should only take you about an hour at the end of every month. You shouldn't be nitpicking every single little thing that comes out. But to play devil's advocate, my girlfriend, for example, would really benefit from having a budget. My 10-year goal and her 10-year goal is very different. She's actually already, if not very close to the income level she would see herself being at in 10 years' time, and is also very close to the lifestyle she sees herself having. So in order to be able to save more and have more sort of money to work with, she would need to budget and see exactly where her money's coming out of. And that's how that would benefit someone like that. But if you're like me and you realize that your 10-year plan is not going to benefit from you penny pinching and budgeting, but rather being more proactive with the way you earn, that's just something to think about. So don't stress, analyze which one you are. But if you are, say, a student or just getting started, I would really recommend budgeting and having a big picture in what's coming in and what's coming out in order for you to be able to see what you need to do now. Now, moving on to number 3, have a savings plan for the unexpected. We all saw with these last 2 years how quickly everything can go haywire. And there doesn't have to be a global pandemic for your finances to take a hit. Think about necessary concerns. What if your laptop stops working tomorrow? Or your car breaks down? Try to think about how much a minor emergency like that could cost you. And, well, start saving for it. Even just a few dollars a month can add up, really whatever you can. If you're just breaking even each month and don't find yourself with any money to save, like I said before, doing that budget will really help you cut some unnecessary costs and make sure you can establish some savings. But what if it's worse? What if you lose your job and don't have income for X amount of time? Now, I don't want to bring the mood down, but I do think this is a very sensible step. If you're familiar with Scott Pape, or as you probably have heard before, the Barefoot Investor, I too would recommend recommend about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses to be put in a high interest savings account that you don't touch in case of an emergency. It'll definitely give you a sense of peace of mind knowing that you have that in the tank in case anything were to go wrong. So that's where the budget comes in handy, because you'll be able to see what your expenses are and you'll be able to figure out how much you need to save in case the worst happens. Before we go to the next step, I have actually bought some more lights for the background. I've got this lamp one, and then I've got that lamp one down there, and then also that blue light, little blue light. Kind of vibing. It's not quite done, but a little upgrade to the bedroom. Now moving on to number 4. Think carefully about credit cards. So credit is important, but it's tricky. If you've never had a credit card of your own, you may quickly get in over your head. But it is important to have one so you can build credit, which you'll need sooner or later in life when you are making purchases like a car or a house. So why are credit cards useful? Well, credit cards are a great way to help you build credit. They have greater fraud protections than debit cards, and many credit cards have reward programs that can give you cheaper fuel or whatever. But of course, there are also negative points. Credit cards can increase your chances of overspending, and they tend to have very high interest rates. And credit cards can hurt your credit score just as fast as they can improve it. If you miss a payment or use too much of your available credit without making a payment, that will negatively impact your credit score. But ultimately, unfortunately, they are necessary in order to start building your credit score. So if you're ever wanting to make a big purchase, chances are you'll need one. So you're better off starting sooner than later. What exactly is a credit score? Pretty much it's just a 3-digit number, usually between 300 to 850, that is built up of a result of an analysis of your previous credit history. That number simply tells lenders your potential risk and ability to pay back loans. So while most debt is bad debt, there can be good debt. And eventually in the future, when you're wanting to use a loan to leverage on some investment, you will need a credit score. And they do matter a lot, because a good credit score can help you qualify for lower rates on credit cards, car loans, and home mortgages. And some employers even take them into account. And if you're renting, most landlords probably will ask to see it. Having a bad credit score can negatively impact all those things and ultimately cost you in the long run. So pretty much to a potential lender or employer, your credit score number will indicate to them whether or not you're responsible and can handle your financial obligations. So if you're trying to aim for a good credit score, you'll ultimately want to aim for a number that's higher than 700. Just some quick, simple tactics that can help you boost your credit score that I found. 1, pay your bills on time. And 2, just try to use less than 10% of your available credit. Now on to number 5, and my favorite, make investing a habit. Now, it may seem really hard to put money aside now, but if you get into the habit of doing it now, you will soon find it to be second nature. And I think if you follow the way Connor and I invest, 50 or 65-year-old you, or whatever age you want to retire at, will definitely thank you. The best thing I would recommend to just start off with is looking at our ETF videos. I'm obviously not going to go through all that information over here, but if you look at those videos, it is a great starting point. Think of it as your retirement plan. This is money you're going to be putting away and not touching and pulling out when you want to retire. So if you take what Connor and I both first initially invested in, which is Vanguard's VOO, it's just an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. If you were to, and this is not financial advice, but say you put in $300 into this ETF and it gave 8% return every year, and you did that consistently for 40 years before you pulled it out, you'd be pulling $1 million. Now say you want to put a little bit more every month and you want to put in $500. At the same amount of time, putting $500 monthly with an 8% return, you'd be pulling just shy of $2 million. So I'll leave a link to this compound interest calculator. Play around with the numbers and figure out what you sort of want to pull out. Obviously it's not guaranteed, but if we look at the last 100 years in the stock market, can't really go wrong. So my advice is to just start with anything. If you don't have much money, start with $50, start with $100, $200, whatever you can afford. I started with $300. Now I put in close to $700. Now, obviously not all of it is for ETFs. I do other investing in this channel. So if you watch us, you will see what we're investing in. And I hear you, no one wants to wait 40 years to pull their money out. I get it. It's not cool to be old and rich. you want to be young and rich? Well, simply put, you have your whole life to hustle and make as much money as you can before you reach that 50, 60-year-old version of you. So if you want to be young and rich, the only real way you're going to do it is by, well, figuring it out yourself. At least this way, just by putting a portion of your income aside to invest every month. When you do get to that age, at least you will be old and rich, in case you didn't figure it out during your youth. Now, this goes without saying, but before you actually start investing, you should pay off your debt. Now, obviously, if you have student loans and you live in Australia, HECS debt is pretty chill. You don't really need to pay that off very quickly. But if you're in other places around the world, I know that the interest rates are kind of killer. So obviously pay off debt first, pay off that bad debt off first before you start investing. That goes without saying. But if you have sort of debt that doesn't have high interest rates and you think by putting this money aside, your opportunity cost is actually better because you're making more money this way than you would if you pay off that debt. Obviously, we're all in completely different scenarios. We're all in completely different situations, and what works for me might not work for you. So take what I've said in this video as sort of a foundation to start your financial future, but make sure you do it in your own way. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free and you can always choose to unsubscribe. And while you're there, just go a little bit to the left and hit the like button if you did enjoy it. Con and I would very much appreciate it. Here is a video YouTube thinks you like, and here is our last video.